I'm on air. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Podcast Winterfell. You can find us at podcastwinterfell@gmail.com. I already did something wrong, and I'm looping myself. And Mackenzie's laughing at me. Welcome to Podcast Winterfell. We have a great crew today. We're just here to be casual, chat about a show we love, Game of Thrones. It's the finale tonight. This has been a long season. It's had its ups. It's had its downs, but we're still here talking about it. And I think everyone gathered is interested in just having a fun discussion about the show, seeing what happens. And it's a little bit crazy when we get to these points, you know? I've seen it with Lost, Breaking Bad, other shows. We get to the end and you reflect back on not only the show itself, but the fandom and the people that you've enjoyed along the way. So let me introduce the people we have today. First off, coming to us with a little maple syrup in the internet pipes, it's Mackenzie. Say hello, please.
Hi, everyone, and hi, Axel. Thank you for having me on today. I almost didn't get to make it, but I'm happy I get to and talk about pretty much the end of kind of an era almost for television in Game of Thrones, and happy to be joined by you and everybody else on this panel today.
Well, thank you for coming. It is an end of an era. That's something we should talk about too, whether we think this can happen again. You know, that's a good point. Again, we have another guest. He's crazy. He's Johnny. He's got to be in the middle. It's Johnny Be Crazy. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. Thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, can you capture lightning in a bottle twice? That is a really good question. It might take a while for another series to hit as hard as this, especially on HBO, but we do got some good stuff coming up, and I'm excited about The Watchmen, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. I think this season's been pretty good. I think it's consistent with every season since Jerem stopped writing. Honestly, if you look back at the seasons 5 through 7, it's pretty consistent with season 8. Other than that, I think there's good and bad stuff to talk about. Of course, I could complain the dire wolf treatment throughout these mini seasons has been awful, but I mean, what do we expect at this point? They're just trying to piss us off, probably. But with that, I'll shut the hell up. You can find me at Johnny Be Crazy. Other than that, let's have a good time.
Yeah, baby. Ghost. Oh, Ghost. I have 2 dogs. I gave them extra hugs for every fan. They were very worn out after that. Our next guest is the man himself, the legendary reaction videos, but he's here today to react to our reactions. It's Fandom D8. What's up, buddy?
For starters, I'm just ecstatic that Axel began the stream by saying he was like going in a loop, and instantly I'm thinking of Westworld. And that's where I pretty much like introduced to this guy, because he was like doing those podcasts with Justin Thomas. Secondly, can you catch thunder or the second time in a bottle? No, you can't, Johnny B. But you can possibly catch it inside of a damn Funko box, like, you know, Thor, God of Lightning. There you go. The first Funko of the day. I am Fandom DC, and I cannot wait to talk about Game of Thrones, the fandom that got me to even like becoming a YouTuber.
That's awesome. Yeah. It brought a lot of people into content creation, blogging, podcasting, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I think it can be compared kind of to Lost in that sense, not just for the spectacle it's become and how big it's become, but how many people like found their own way in it. I mean, there's people who were writing about Lost and are now making movies and making TV shows and on the set. And they, you know what I mean? So who knows where any of us could be in a couple months or a year, or we could just be here still sitting in a chair talking on YouTube, but that's okay, because our next guest will be listening, and that is the man himself. He joined me on Westworld. He was on the initial reaction for the first episode. His name is Brett. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you, Axel. It's great to be here. It's great to see Mackenzie, Johnny, Phantom. Just really excited about this day that's been building for about 7-8 years. And I'm just really looking forward to tonight. And I tried to get my camera working and I couldn't. So I apologize. You're not going to see my beautiful mug today.
Oh, that just adds to the mystery of you, Brett. It's a beautiful thing.
Fair enough.
It's a beautiful thing. It's like why the Dharma Initiative really got started and was on the island. Who was on the outrigger?
Speaking of Lost, Lost is kind of how I got introduced to podcasts, and to you, Axel.
Yeah.
And I do feel like Game of Thrones has become a similar type of phenomenon as far as, a community of strangers coming together through the internet, talking. Of course, in this day and age, 10 years later, it's even more magnified. But it's just really cool to be a part of a community like this. And I think we will see shows in the future do similar things,
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think so too. We can start. Let's have that kind of be our first thing that we chat about. I think that Game of Thrones, like Lost, it will be legendary for the fandom it's created and for the amount of people watching it together. But I don't think it's going to be the end. I think there'll be other shows. We thought Lost was going to be the end. Before that, there was like everyone talked about the Dallas finale or MASH or, whatever it was. I can remember people gathering around to watch Twin Peaks, and all this kind of stuff back in the day when I was a kid. But I think it'll continue to happen because I also think that the broadcasters and the streamers, it goes wide. It's going to come back. We're all going to end up with a streaming box where we have Netflix and ABC. It's all internet anyway. It's just information in a tube, just like Westworld, people. Right? Oh man, we're talking about everything but Game of Thrones. But what do you all think? Mackenzie, what do you think? Do you think that this is really are you feeling like this is an end? Because for me, I'm also thinking about the prequels, the sequels. Like there's kind of a feeling of an end, but not really too much. I kind of feel like this one ends and we might even get a sequel in a couple of years. Who knows?
Yeah, like I feel like for now, it's kind of because the last 6 episodes have been so divisive that I feel like a lot of people who were show fans might drop off. They may not even go back to The Long Night until it's officially out, maybe, because not a lot of Dornish Dan said, in which Johnny made a video about, there's not that many people who watch the show who are book fans and have invested X number amount of time and hours into a show like this. They don't look at the lore, they don't look at videos behind the scenes stuff, what us as content creators do. So they may struggle with that because of a lackluster season by a lot of accounts. I don't think it's lackluster. I think it's pretty well done for the amount of time that they had for the season and the amount of characters in the world that was so expansive to contract into 6 episodes. But I feel like it might be lost on some people. That idea of the prequels moving forward. Of course they'll have time to invest in what was the Long Night and so on and so forth, but because of what they did with the Night King in this series, maybe show only watchers may just be like, I'm okay, I don't know if I want to know, kind of thing. But I do feel like we'll get a show like this again. I just don't know what type of show it will be, so to speak.
Oh, jump in, Johnny. You were going to say.
Yeah, and it's that's a good point. And I'm not hearing the greatest things about the Long Night prequel, which there's 3 other prequels. The Empire of Ash, which is the Doom of Valyria prequel, I think would be fantastic. And they have Fire and Blood. There's so many things they can pull from that they're definitely going to make television on this later. And I believe they'll catch something. I don't think all of these are going to make it. I don't think all of the pilots are going to go through. Here we're going to see some crazy stuff with the Long Night pilot. We'll see what happens with that. But there's many and more things, I think, yet to come. Plus, we still have novels coming our way if you still want to be into the Game of Thrones universe. But there's many other things that are coming too, and The Expanse is awesome. If If you haven't watched that yet, go binge it because it's definitely worth watching. It's a really good space thriller, and it's not your typical, what would you call it? It's not your typical space opera. It's pretty realistic. And when people compare it to Game of Thrones in space, it's a pretty good comparison, honestly. As far as Game of Thrones, I'm really just, can any final season of a television show this great live up to the fans' expectations? I think not. I think we're sitting here, we're expecting so much. We've talked about it for a year and a half. You cannot help but be let down. I don't care what they put on there, honestly. And should they have done 14 seasons, like Jerem suggested? Sure, but they're not going to do that. And then they cut it down again. I think, it's like anyone. You get creative fatigue with stuff. And I think that's kind of what happened here. And it's unfortunate, but I still think the season's, compared with, like I said, the second half of Game of Thrones, this is pretty good. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I think you make a lot of good points, man. And Mackenzie, I agree. I think we will see. We don't know what kind of show it's going to be. These shows seem to have that deep mythology so they can pull people in. Like The Lost, and then you see all the shows that try to copy Game of Thrones and Lost with these type of mythologies, and and then you get back to it and you go, oh wait, the real reason I liked it was the characters, right? Like anything can have. I can create any type of world in my mind. I create a world called Pillow World because I'm looking at a pillow, and everybody wears pillow hats, and they call each other by weird pillow names. And they keep on using those words again and again to remind you that you're in this world. But it's the great characters that have kind of brought us together. And I think, Mackenzie, you made a great point about the vast majority of people not being book readers. Like, this is like a TV phenomenon. What brought it to prominence was the visual medium. And there's so much to pull on with these books and so many other stories. We're going to be seeing stuff like this forever. And I think there will be people who drop off on the long night. I would guarantee that a lot of content creators too might just be like, you know what? I'm just not even going for it on this first season. And then by the second, third season, they're jumping on doing rewatches. And what I'm saying? Like that stuff always happens. Fandom, what do you think about this? Are you feeling like this is the end, or do you kind of feel like maybe it's just the beginning?
It is the beginning, but this pillow world, we need to discuss about this, where it is, because when it's like, 2:30 a.m. in the morning and I cannot sleep, I'll just dive into like a damn pillow world. Maybe then I actually get comfortable and sleep. But yeah, just like what Johnny B was saying about the prequels and stuff, it's like that's what's gonna get like everyone else to like hop on. Even though right now with season 8, how it's going, and pretty much the fandom is like divided, they're gonna hop back on. It's a drug. Need something. It's like what other shows that I give an example of CW's like Vampire Diaries. When that was like ending, there was like the originals, and when that was ending, they were gonna do like legacies, and people were like, I don't want to like follow legacies. The daughter of Carl Michelson, and the next thing you know, people were still watching it and still talking about it, and like the next thing to come after this is probably, my guess could be like the Lord of the Rings that's coming out on Amazon. Like that could be like the next thing, because you already have people who've seen the movies and like, wait a minute, there's gonna be like a Lord of the Rings series, so if as long as it's either a familiar face or just the universe itself, people are just gonna like lunge towards it. So hopefully, Amazon could be like, show could pretty much be like the next Game of Thrones. And also me not being a non-book reader, I just like read the first book of Game of Thrones. So the moment this ends, I'm pretty much going to dive right into freaking Clash of Kings and the other books. So it's like a great thing.
That's what I'm doing too, man. I've been waiting, and I was like, wow, look, if my desk, earthquake. Sorry.
Get under the desk and turtle up.
I can't help it. I am in Oregon. Yeah, I'm diving right into the books, man. I've already got it. I got it from my library, and I listened to some of the first and second book. I'll probably listen to them again, because I kind of had a one-track mind and I wanted to like be focused on the show. And I felt like since I create content too and do the podcast, I said, man, I'll just compare everything. That's all I'm going to do is sit there and compare everything. I won't be able to stop myself. So now I'm looking forward to doing that. And I think it's especially fun. It's almost like they set us up with these prequels to kind of, get into the books, because that's just going to get you more excited because you're not spoiling it. You know what I mean? You're not spoiling anything. You're just getting more info. Brett, what do you think, buddy? What's your take on kind of how fandom is, and is this the end? Is this the beginning? Are you feeling? I'm feeling a lot less like kind of closure type thing than with those other shows, because not only the environment we live in, but we know something else is coming. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big part of it. This world that George created is just so vast that, and it's also so apt to theories and that kind of thing. Like the Doom of Valyria is so mysterious. Are we going to learn anything more about that? What is beyond the Shadowlands of Ashai? All these places in the world that are mysterious that would be really cool to dig into. But, if we could, well, now we have a chance. It's not going to be in this Game of Thrones series that we're watching that's wrapping up today. But, it opens the door for all sorts of stories to come down the line there.
Yeah.
I think also that the showrunners were kind of given an impossible task when they were faced with going past where George has gone with his books to actually wrap up, however 50, 60 characters we care about, story arcs, all, perfectly in a bow, and also have the ending satisfying and insightful and I would describe that task impossible. So I think they've actually done a pretty good job of, wrapping up a whole lot. And I think after tonight, we are going to be left with, I don't know what kind of emotion. I just can guarantee it will be very emotional.
Oh man, what the things we do for love.
Exactly.
Right. All right. Well, let's get to it. I want to hear how everybody thinks this is going to end. I just want to cut to the chase. All right, let's just do it. I'm going to say how I think this is going to go tonight. I think that Dany is going to sequester herself. And by the way, no spoilers in the chat. Nobody here knows spoilers. This is all theorizing and prognosticating. So I think Dany's going to sequester herself. I think everybody is going to be shocked by what happens. I think that Sansa and Tyrion are in trouble because Dany's already said they're in trouble, especially Sansa, based on what she said to Jon in their last meeting when she really tried to kiss him and he was like, no, auntie. That was so awkward. I want to see your reaction to that, fandom. But I think that she's going to be isolated. I think Sansa and Tyrion are in trouble. I think that Jon is going to very quickly. I don't think there's going to be any Hamlet type stuff here. I think he knows what's up. He knows Dany has to be removed. And I think that Varys already brought it up to him. And that scene was there for a reason. I think Jon's going to kill the dragon, and then Dany's going to kill herself. Ooh. And then everybody else is going to figure it out. That's my prediction. Let's go to Johnny this time. Yeah. Johnny, what do you think? How we ended it? Just go for it.
I'm chomping at the bit here, man. So I don't think Dany's going to let Jon get close to her, given she's going with fear. I think we're going to have a Rickard and Brandon Stark situation with Tyrion and Jon. She knows that Sansa loves Tyrion and Jon. She knows there's an affection there. She knows that Tyrion has an affection. Tyrion has betrayed her again, so we're going to see her use this fear. She knows Sansa's up there and Sansa can gain an army. I think one of those letters that Varys sent was to Sansa, and Sansa is preparing. Not the one talking about Aegon Targaryen, who Jon is, but you gotta believe Varys sent something to Sansa, knowing Sansa's basically the only capable person to play the Game of Thrones that's left alive. She's the only one, so we're seeing her set up. And I think it's deliberate that we kind of have her out of sight, out of mind, because she's going to have to come back here, right? Just like you said, Dany's going to want to take care of her, but I don't think she's going to leave. She's going to become more of a shut-in, in my opinion. Like I've been saying, the Rhaenyra Targaryen line here, her two betrayers being Tyrion and Jon. And after the two betrayers, Rhaenyra just didn't trust anyone. And who is left she has to trust? I think Grey Worm's going to be the only one that's steadfast by her side at this point. And we've seen in the preview the Dothraki and the Unsullied, that she's just taken over the whole city, and it's looking like she's just going to do martial law here. So I don't even know if she's smart and paranoid like I think she is. She's not going to let anyone get close to her besides Grey Worm. And I think Claire Grey has a theory that Arya is going to take Grey Worm's face, which maybe if they do it right, but I really think Bran's going to come out of nowhere and shoot her with a crossbow. I still think that's kind of set up. Bran has to do something, right? And he's got this crossbow. If Tyrion's dead, he can't get Highgarden. If Jaime's already dead, so he doesn't even have any play here because Daenerys don't know about the deal. So what's the best thing he's going to be able to do? Is kill Daenerys before she kills Tyrion. That's the only way he's getting his castle, possibly.
And he could snipe her potentially.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to get real close to her.
And die in Jon's arms or something like that. Jon kept running after she gets hit. I think it's going to mirror Ygritte. They've been doing a lot of mirroring this season.
Oh, man. I love oh gosh, you all are going to end up convincing me.
Yeah.
Johnny, that was great, man. What do you think, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I think I did a video where I looked at both of their relationships kind of start until the end of Jon and Ygritte's relationship, and how before, like in the very beginning-ish of season, the first episode, of the last season, how it's pretty much following a similar step. You got the whole Jon and Ygritte climbing the wall to Jon and Dany flying with the dragons for the first time together. It's like following a similar path. And for, say, Arya or a person like Bran to take out Dany is an interesting dynamic, because there was Ollie who unknowingly took out Ygritte. Then it's like the small child / the mentor figure that was Jon to Ollie. So they're trying to do that. But the one thing that a lot of people are still wondering is if she's going to drop the "I'm pregnant" bomb, which, because they hinted at that for a lot of season 7, has no bearings on if it being revealed yet. So they may do like that, or as she's dying, she's saying that she was. But I don't know. We have 80 minutes. I do feel like Sansa's going to come into play again, because her last line in the show to be, "I wish I saw your sister be executed." Like, come on, it's like a little bit weird. We did say goodbye kind of to Sam and Gilly and Tormund and Ghost, but I feel like that's a false goodbye. I feel like that was a goodbye for Jon in case I don't come back because of the secret probably coming out. He probably knew that was going to come out. So all of those goodbyes essentially were like, if I die, because she knows that I told people, and the easiest way for her to get what she wants is to kill me, then I've said goodbye to everybody. That means something to me, in a sense. But yeah, I feel like Tyrion, he's going to be on the chopping block, kind of like Varys was, where they may deal with him in the first 5 to 10 minutes. And I feel like if they can have a somewhat physical representation, they may show Daenerys. Like she said in season 5, "I don't want another child's bones dropped at my feet." They're going to show her all of these dead bodies as much as they can muster to be like, yeah, you didn't want this, but here's all of these people that you massacred for essentially no reason. But I can see her being snapping out of it, because it could have been just that madness, rage that set her off and set Drogon off to take and obliterate the city. But it's that thing of, I didn't want to be Queen of the Ashes, but here you are, and you did it. It'll be her realization of, what did I do? Which will be a big thing maybe next season, the next episode, or we don't get it at all, and she's proud of the fact that she does it, which ensures that she is her father reincarnated and is the Mad King's daughter.
Ooh. So what do you think if she does make a realization there? Do you think that there could actually be some sort of, because that's an interesting concept that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and I haven't considered too much myself, is that maybe she'll have a change of heart in this episode. Maybe the finale will be that she'll realize she made a mistake.
It's entirely possible, because she didn't want children to die. That was a big thing that Tyrion said. It's like, you're going to just kill thousands of innocent children. It could be a question or a quester of the fact of she did war crimes. Like, she obliterated a bunch of people, and whatever remains of the small folk may just be like, I give up. But for Jon, this is going to be a big testament for his character next episode, because Grey Worm didn't care. He's like, oh, Daenerys wants to fly away and take care of everybody? Sure, then I'll just start going crazy, which is just throwing the spear at the Lannisters. So it's like Jon was the only one to be like, no, this is not right. We shouldn't be doing this. So it'll be his really big thing of, I maybe have to kill her to keep the peace, so this doesn't happen again, where she doesn't get what she wants right away, or she's getting what she wants but not fast enough. Something bad could happen. But if Jon has to kill her, we have to keep Drogon separated, because the last time that someone tried to attack Dany didn't end very well, because Jaime almost died, and so did Bronn. So you have to kind of scurry Drogon away for her to be killed, in a sense, if it's right in the open. Yeah. That's like my biggest thing. Is like, if she is called to the fact that she gets killed all the people, but I don't know, because she has Drogon, and she'll be like, I can do what I want because I have the power of the dragon.
Can he fit in the throne room though? I think she'll have to be alone at some point.
Yeah.
But
wow. Yeah, that's something. What do you think, Brett?
Oh, what do you think, Brett? Oh, sorry, hang on. Let me mute this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I like all these theories. I do have kind of always in the back of my head thought about the scene with Bronn in the first episode where he's given that crossbow to do something with, and it could come back here. So I do like the thought of him being the one to take out Daenerys. I don't think she'd become the Ice Queen at that point, so I think that theory's been put to bed. But
man, come on, there's still time, dude. Bran dies. Bran takes her.
Thank you, Brett.
North of the wall. I mean, Brett, I love that you brought up the magic stuff, because I'm all about if all of a sudden it gets totally magical, but I don't think it's gonna.
Yeah, I think that's done. But you never know. I like the idea of her. I mean, if she is shown the bones of all these children and she's kind of has a change of heart, to what end? Are they going to be okay with her still ruling in the end, or are they still going to try to take her out if she's, very, remorseful? I still see her needing to be taken out. So, but you never know with Game of Thrones. I mean, she could totally be there at the end.
What do you think? Well, how do you see this ending? If you were sitting there in the writer's room, what would you come up with?
I like, man, I'm just along for the ride. Why you put me on the spot right here? No, I like the idea of her being taken out. It just leaves a big open hole as to what happens after that point.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead, buddy.
So, yeah. Well, the question, does someone just descend to the throne, or, do they need to change their type of government, break the wheel entirely?
Yeah. I wonder if, Something when I think Mackenzie, when you said earlier, Tyrion could get dealt with quick. Maybe everything could be dealt with quick. And a lot of this episode is what happens after.
We have 80 minutes for this episode, so it's not a lot of time conceivably for what we want.
But then again, we've seen episodes where it's at the end of 80 minutes and we're like, whoa, what happened? That seemed like 5 minutes. Fandom, what do you think? Do you have any endgame theories here?
Oh, for starters, if I was in that writer's room, the opening scene would be Cersei and Jaime like appearing out of the rubble unscathed and they're still alive, and then they go on the boat, they go to a farm, live their days, and no one would know that they actually survived. That would be a 10 out of 10 episode right there. A great way to open up the series finale of Game of Thrones. But yeah, Brett does bring up like the point. It's like, imagine she does all of this and then all corners of Westeros just band together to kill her. And they're not going to praise her like as her ruler. She wants to rule by fear, but they're like, wait a minute, we don't want like another Mad King Ares on our hands. So at this point, just like what everyone's thinking, it's like it's pretty much going to be an assassination attempt for Dany in this episode. For me, I'm hoping it's Jon, and just like I think Mackenzie brought up, it's like he can actually end up killing her, and then she might says, well, I'm actually pregnant. That'll just be like, that bittersweet thing. Like, okay, he ended up like killing, one of the antagonists, I want to say. And at the same time, it's like, it's pretty much his baby mom he pretty much end up killing, And then for Bronn, I don't know how they're really going to conclude Bronn's story. Like the moment they gave him that crossbow in episode 1, I'm like, is he really going to do it? Or is he not going to do it? Then it was episode 4. He comes out of nowhere, pretty much getting ready to kill them. Even the way how he talked to them was like, oh, well, I can either just like not kill you guys because it just seems like Dany is pretty much going to defeat Cersei, but I can easily just kill her hand off in some of her generals. Even then, if he even did that, still Dany would have won. So I don't know. He could end up like killing Dany to make sure that Tyrion stays around. But what power, like whoever ascends the throne, how do we know that Tyrion is still going to be the hand of the king? Will he still be like making powerful moves to even give Bronn that castle at this point? And even then, it's like we already see that Dany was like, oh, if you betray me again, you're done. And literally he goes in and portrays her by freeing Jaime. So the moment you realize that, wait a minute, where's the Kingslayer? And obviously we know who was pretty much going to be like the most likely candidate, Tyrion. So it's not looking good for him. It's like my 3 favorite characters of this show is freaking Arya, Cersei, Tyrion. You already killed off Cersei. I highly doubt they're gonna kill, Arya, aka Wolverine. Like again, Nick Fury might also just recruit her to be in Avengers 5 now at this point. But like Tyrion, I don't know. It's like it could be, man. It could be. Like Funko made all these characters on the Iron Throne, like one by one. It's like I don't know. It's a misdirect.
Yeah.
Tyrion's pretty much doomed, right? I don't think Dany's going to change her mind because, come on, she let Jaime go. Grey Worm's going to be pissed at him as well because he usurped Grey Worm's authority and basically told the Unsullied to shove it, that Grey Worm, he had more authority than Grey Worm. Like, in a roundabout way, that's who told them to guard Jaime Lannister. So, and we've seen that Grey Worm has went ham, and I wouldn't mess with him, honestly. He's grieving. Dany's grieving. I don't think this is going to make it any better. I do like what you say, Mackenzie, as far as her having this moment of reflection, but I feel like it's too late for that. She should have had that moment the 2 weeks she waited for Jon to get there. And do they have enough time? She might. I could see them changing. She has that moment, like you said, but she dies immediately while having that moment. That's how I see it. Super bittersweet. But I'm a black-hearted fiend.
Yeah.
Pregnancy angle is something interesting to me. And hey, Johnny, you're a book reader. I wonder to ask you, wait, how many other people have read all the books? Is anyone else? Oh, Mackenzie. Okay, so you two. I'd like to ask. That makes me think of this prophecy thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where doesn't he like meld his sword in the heart of his love or something like that? And would that not be kind of looping around to kind of getting to this prophecy or something? Is that why people are bringing that? I see that, but I don't know.
Azor. Oh, okay, Jonathan.
Well, I'll go ahead really quick. Okay. So, most people think if you read the books, Azor Ahai and Nissa were Rhaegar and Lyanna. Jon is Lightbringer, which will lead the only real thing they will lead the people to a new dawn. Like they will be the leader of that era. So Jon could still be Lightbringer. It's all really metaphors because the bloody sword is Rhaegar's shaft. And he killed her with that, forging a baby, which I think takes around it. I want to say it happened around the same amount of time. I can't remember, but that's one of the theories. Now this the flaming sword aspect, I don't know if they're going that route, but she does have the fire within her. She's already said it. Now the fact that she doesn't get burned, this has been stated by Germ. You could see it in the books. And you can see it in the show. It's a life for a life. It's blood magic. It's not because she is of the dragon. When she rode Drogon away from the marine pits, Drogon got injured and was bleeding molten blood, and it actually burned Dany. And something interesting to note, when Dany is in the Great Grass Sea, where we leave her off in the books, when she gets taken away by Drogon, she starts to have her moon's blood, but it's super heavy flow, and she's feeling sick. A lot of people think it's the bloody flux, but that comes from the mouth and the butt. I think she's having a miscarriage because she's thinking about the prophecy at the same time. And I'll just throw that out there. I'll let Sasa talk for a little bit because I cannot shut up ever.
But what is that kind of fulfill it? Because I guess I kind of understand some of what you were saying, but what do you?
Because with Azor Ahai and Nissa, it was Azor Ahai tempered a sword 3 times. One was 30 days, 60 days, and then one was water, a lion's heart, and then a woman's breast. So, like, if it was, people are equating it to Rhaegar, it's like the first 3 times he tried to have, quote unquote, a child or something like that. Like from Cersei to the first time he was, I think, betrothed, and then with Lyanna. And I mean, it could work. It would be a very weird thing to kind of pull back into the show because they've kind of thrown out a lot of the prophecies. Like the Valonqar prophecy, it was left out of the show, but it's in the book, along with a couple other different types of theories. But like, I mean, it's possible that it would show up. I don't know if they would spend the budget on a flaming sword, flaming longclaw. But I mean,
and well, I mean, you could call Dany Azor Ahai, right? Drogon's Lightbringer. She gave up Drogo to give birth to the dragons. There's like, if you read the books, there's maybe a dozen Azor Ahais that fit a reborn or born with salt and smoke. That's one of the big things. I think it ties in with the last hero and his 12 companions and the dog and the pig, I believe. You got Sam, you got the Hound, and the 12 people who fit the Azor Ahai prophecy. I'm going to delve deeper into that because I'm going to get really into the books after the show ends as far as content. But if Jon stabs her, it could still be metaphorical. Like they could both get burned up by Drogon at the same time. It's customary for all Targaryens to be interned into ashes and usually burned by a dragon if there is a dragon available. They have used wildfire in the past, so I would look for it more in metaphor, something like that. Yeah. Right. I know I'm getting confusing because I delve off into my own little wormhole.
No, not at all. I mean, it is confusing. I mean, I think that part of the history and lore and all this kind of stuff is it's confusing. And just like our own history, when people think about, I mean, when they make political or societal allusions to the past, they often confuse them, or things are named differently or things like that. It's all interesting to me. I was just kind of wondering whether maybe they were kind of getting around to that, because there just seems such a fervor around like Jon killing Dany. Like people are kind of seem obsessed about that, right? That like I keep on seeing it over. Jon's going to kill Dany. Jon's going to kill Dany. And it never had really occurred to me, because I don't see him ever like wanting to take that action. I see him more going for the dragon. To me, that's her power, you know? And you say, well, it'd be easier to kill her than a dragon. Well, would it? You know what I mean? I don't know. How does a dragon defend itself if it's flying around and you start, you know, maybe it's Bran that finally sends that bolt. Like you were saying, he sends a bolt at Dany. Maybe he sends a bolt at the dragon, you know? Maybe he found like an extra boat that Urine left, and he's like riding on the highway.
Urinate.
Yeah, urinate. Right. That'd be a good license plate.
Captain Urine.
Or you're off. Instead of you're on. He's now you're off.
You're off. Oh man, Dany and you're on. All right. So let's move it along. Let's I want to kind of open it up. Does anybody hey Brett, you've been quiet over there, fandom. Do you all have anything that you kind of want to bring up to us, or any questions or something you want to throw out there? Let's just kind of open it up.
Just listening to y'all talk about the Azor. Hi, sorry, Phantom. I'm not a book reader, so but if I saw Jon kill Dany and his sword suddenly burst into flames, I wouldn't really second guess that. I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Sure. I mean, she's like a dragon queen, and it could be something that the show does, but doesn't get into too much of an in-depth explanation as to why it happened. And it's just kind of one of those like nod to the book reader type of things. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened.
Yeah, because it's been said that she has the fire within her. It wouldn't be beyond the, but there would have to be a something Jon has to do with that. And I do think he could be the rider of Drogon after Dany dies. That's very customary. Dragons outlive their riders all the time, and they get new ones. Maegor the Cruel rode Balerion the Black Dread, and Arya Targaryen, and Aegon the Conqueror, and maybe a couple more that I can't think of. But they don't choose whether it's a good or bad person, and it's up in the air how it really works. But they have some sort of bond. I don't know if it's as deep as warging or not.
Yeah, and like you've said, Johnny, it's an Aegon the Conqueror came and conquered Westeros, so an Aegon coming to save Westeros one more time. I mean, there's that parallel as well. So, like, and plus you have to think too that Jon could be the book version of Aegon, which is fake Aegon.
Sorry. But I'll ask y'all a question. With Arya, and it seems like she might try to kill Dany. That's what everyone's expecting. But will she take more of the Hound's advice to heart and not rush so hastily into it? If Arya does kill Dany, first, do you think that's going to happen, if that's a possibility? And two, how do you think it would happen? Is she going to go the whole faceless man route, or what? Phantom Descent, talk for me.
For starters, I don't see Arya killing Dany, since she pretty much killed the Night's King in episode 3. If they give her like another major kill, like, okay, it's a game of Arya Stark, Game of Thrones. But also, maybe she'll do the faceless, man thing, because she hasn't done that like what, 2 seasons or so now? Or wait, no, episode 1 of season 7, she did it as Walter Frey, but it's like been like a while that she's actually done it. So I don't know if they're kind of like saving it for like one more moment where, who knows, maybe she might just end up killing Grey Worm and try to like, take his face and then try to kill Dany. Or maybe she might end up failing. Like at this point, hopefully with the whole Sandor conversation, it's like maybe she wanted a way out of this, but it pulled her like right back in. And hopefully it's kind of 2 different things, because the whole list thing was that revenge trip, but Dany thing is like a whole new situation where it just needs to be done.
Yeah. What do you think, Brett?
Well, she may have taken Sandor's advice to heart, and then she got onto the streets of King's Landing and changed her mind because of all the falling debris and fire. So that could have, that could have changed her thinking there. If she is going to use her faceless, I feel like I could see her retiring the faceless man magic in kind of one last hurrah. She uses it one last time, and then she decides, okay, I don't want to be a killer anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah, she might even get a chance to do that. I wish they played it out a little more because, honestly, you're not going to run away from the House of Black and White and not even get so much as a phone call. I would say as well, this isn't based on revenge like it was with Cersei, right? This is more of a, well, if I don't kill Dany, she's going to kill everyone I love. And this doesn't even, almost a preemptive strike. But she's already killed people in front of her eyes. I don't know. You could go the revenge route or just an honor route here. Filling time. Max, will pass that beer over, man.
I got a cold one, man. A Corona Premier.
I can't even look at alcohol after yesterday. Like, it's too much.
Just have a couple, I'm good at that. Just a couple.
What do you think, Axel? Are you gonna kill Dany?
I'm not sure because I feel like I'm unsure of what Dany's plan is, how quickly Dany is going to realize that she's in danger from the people around her, I wonder if they'll play into kind of the arrogance thing like they did with the Night King. And to me, when the dragon was taken out with Euron, that was supposed to show Dany's arrogance. A lot of people are saying, oh, she didn't notice the boat was there. And I think that was on purpose. And I think
someone hunting is what I equate it to. If you're hunting a deer or a predator, you can definitely shoot them because they don't know you're there.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. But that was also because of her own arrogance that she thought, oh, I'm on the dragons. I'm going to fly around and intimidate everybody, and then you see the way that changed when she came to King's Landing and she was like, no, I'm taking people out, like that was, I think to me, there's a progression there. So I think Arya might be one of those people in trouble too. I think everybody might be in trouble. Like there's a part of me that thinks we could open on like a Stannis redo and everybody's on crosses and Dany just burns everybody up in the first 10 minutes of the show. You know what I'm saying? Maybe everybody except Jon. And he's locked up or something. Like, I don't know. It could go so many different ways that I wouldn't be surprised that she comes back and sequesters herself. But I just think that Arya is definitely going to want to take her out. There's a reason we followed her through all of last episode, so we could see what she saw and how she experienced it firsthand, what Dany did more than anyone else, She was with the common people and the little kids. So she's going to want to, but I'm thinking that Dany's going to know that she's going to want to, and she might be prepared for it. You mentioned earlier, someone mentioned Ned's brother and dad, how the man
Eddard and Brandon.
Yeah, how the Man King, how did he set that up? He had as he reached for him, it killed his dad or something like that?
Brandon was on a choker, basically. And the more he would struggle, the tighter it gets. And Aerys was burning his father alive in front of him. And so as he was trying to get to his father and get to the sword to cut him down, it was just out of reach, and he killed himself while watching his father burn. It's very awful. I don't know if they'll do the exact thing. And I do want to say about Daenerys real quick. Her story arc says it all. I mean, it's set up for her to go heal in the end. If you look at it in season 3-4, that's her peak. That's when she's the savior of the people. And then she gets corrupted by her power lust for the throne. I wouldn't even say she is like Viserys. A lot of people are comparing her to him, but she's not cruel like that. she has only been driven to that by losing every single thing she loves, and everything she's worked for and sacrificed is gone. She doesn't even have the right to the throne now. She has to take it by force. So it's really a lot more complicated than her just getting mad over stuff. And that goes to them not having a lot of time to finish this up, and I'll shut the hell up now. Sorry.
I think the equating it to Viserys is more of the fact of Viserys in the very beginning of this series being overshadowed by Daenerys, by having Daenerys being loved by so many people and having this army back her for pretty much just the fact that she was married to Khal Drogo and she has who she is. And Dany's now kind of feeling that, oh, I'm not as loved as I should be because of how I was loved in Meereen. And it's because it's Jon who is A, a man, and B, actually the rightful person. Not a lot of people knew it at that point, but it's because of where he stands in society that she's feeling like she kind of has to lash out, almost like Viserys kind of was doing in the latter parts of that point. That's what I'm just saying, is why she's kind of like Viserys in that aspect, or was like Viserys, is because she's feeling like she's not loved anymore. Like Viserys felt like, oh, I used to be loved and adored by so many people when I was younger, to now have the person who is younger than me or a different person than me to take what is mine. That's why a lot of people are like thinking that way, and I can completely understand it. It's just because it's that aspect of not being loved anymore for somebody else instead.
I think that's a great point, because one of the things that we forget about is that what we've seen is what the last, I keep on saying it's like 6 or 7 years, right? Has gone by in Showtime, right? So Arya was like 11 and she's like 18, right? Like Jon was 17 turning 18, because they kept on talking about 17 years ago you came back with a baby, right, from Robert's Rebellion. So now Jon's about 24. Dany's about 24, 25. She's a little older, right?
There's a time discrepancy.
Yeah,
I thought maybe she was a little
Dany
older.
was 16. Dany's a year younger. Right? She was 16 when she got married to Drogo in the show. 12 in the books.
Okay. I think all of the kids, so like I think Rob, Jon, and Dany were the same age. I think it's just they aged them up because they're supposed to.
Right. I know they aged them up for the books, but for the show, I think they're supposed to. I thought Rob was a little older, and maybe a year or so. It doesn't. Regardless,
yeah, Rob was 18 and Jon was 7. No, Theon was 18. Rob and Jon were 17. And Bran was 10.
Okay.
Arya was 11.
So it would have been Sansa's 12, and then Rickon 6.
Okay. Well, Rickon's dead.
But he was.
Rickon.
Zigzag. Come on, buddy. I mean, your name is Rickon. It's like zigzag, you know. But anyway, at least it's not Dickon. But what I was trying to say is, you brought up Dany's brother. He raised her. He was really the one who raised her, and look what a horrible person he was. Like, I know people have an attachment to the Khaleesi and the Queen, right? And what that represents. You can still have that attachment, but let's not forget what she always was, is a mythological dragon lady who has some power that she doesn't even understand, who had this crazy lineage. So, I don't know how quick when she gets back in this episode. I'm interested to see, is she going to be kind of like a confidently mad queen? Or is she going to be regretful? But how quickly she goes to everybody and kind of tries to take people out is going to be interesting. Somebody said that Arya takes Grey Worm's face. I kind of like that idea. I think that's kind of fun.
Claire Grey, the Oracle herself.
I kind of like that. But I feel the same way. I kind of feel the same way about Dany that I do about Cersei. That the way they've written the character and what we've seen them gone through, they're really the end that is going to be most satisfying for me is that they are taken out by themselves or through kind of the actions of someone else, like Cersei was, where it's not like a direct stabbing or anything like that. But to see a scene where Dany goes out would be absolutely crazy. Let's talk. Can I talk about some of our other characters? Do you think we're going to see what role do you think Brienne might have in this? Does anybody fandom? You haven't spoken in a while.
For me, I want Brienne to kill freaking Drogon. Let her do it. It will be epic for her. That'll be like one of the first main like deeds as a new knight in Westeros. You know, just killing a damn dragon. You know, there you go. That's what I want Brienne to do at this point. Like, if not that, then obviously she's going to be like, you know, guarding Sansa because Dany's going to be eyeballing her at any point in time. It's like, oh yeah, you know that, you know, Jon Snow is, you know, the heir, another heir. But at the same time, you know, I'm guessing Varys, you know, send forth those letters. So I'm guessing the potential High Lords or so is going to be spreading that news as well. Kind of like when like Ned Stark like send the letter to Stannis, and then Stannis, you know, got the word out to pretty much the realm at that point. So hopefully everything goes out. Even then, if Varys going to do it, I'm guessing Little Bird as like a last request or so. It's like, you know what, this dude kind of helped me out. He left me some of these rings here. Let me send out these damn letters.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I like the point. I think you had brought up the other lords of Westeros kind of banning against Dany. And there's time in this episode to do that. You know, I don't think anyone is expecting like a battle, but maybe we get one. I mean, I know that there's people who are saying, oh, there's a battle in this episode and that episode, but it could be that people try to take out Dany and they mass armies against her. But
the Dothraki aren't just gonna lay down their arms, right?
Yeah.
No, Unsullied.
That's true.
Not for their Khaleesi.
Yeah, no, definitely not Khaleesi. But hey, I love what you said, fandom, about Brienne being the knight and then slaying a dragon. That is such a beautiful metaphor. Now, I mean, it's not even a metaphor. It's just continuing in the what we've seen many times before in fantasy stories. You know, but is anyone else hepped on the idea that they're going to go after the dragon? Because I'm like really into this idea. If I was them, I would try to take out the dragon first.
Well, what happens if you kill Daenerys and you don't kill the dragon? Then what does the dragon do?
Oh, Brett. Damn you, Brett.
Book-wise, really nothing unless the dragon's next to her. But show-wise, I don't know.
Yeah. Does the dragon... That's because they've definitely laid the foundation for a bond there, right?
Yes.
You kind of have to lead Drogon away with like snacks or something. It's like, go fly away. Just like
those snacks.
He should be.
That's the problem.
Conceivably, he should be tired from all of the dragon fire that he just spewed in the last episode. So he should have a dragon nap. But who knows if I don't know. Maybe like Drogon's just somewhere, just hovering over wherever Dany is at this point, because like I mean, yeah, that's the huge thing. It's like, if Dany's killed, how do we get rid of Drogon? Do we just let Drogon fly away and just kill Dany out of sight, out of mind of Drogon? And then the same thing, if we kill Dany, how do we get rid of the Dothraki? Do we just have them all just get wiped out by the suspected army that Sansa has been building? Do we get the army that's in the Riverlands, the Vale, parts of the Iron Islands? Like, if Yara shows up in this last episode, like, do we get all of these armies to show up and go against her? Like, how do we systematically get rid of all of these different people if Dany dies? That's the big thing that we're kind of left with in this episode almost.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I keep on thinking about our heroes, right? Like the people that we know. And you all are bringing up all these other people who still exist in this place. And that's really interesting to me to see how that could play out, and see, because you could also see if Sansa, as you said, she has been in communication. She's going to find things out, right? She knows maybe she knows those ravens went out and she's already gathering forces or whatever. Could that be where Dany says to Jon, we have to go take out your sister? And that is what's going to be kind of his deciding point. That could be something really interesting.
Or is the deciding point just seeing like Arya? Like if Arya pretty much shows up and he's like, oh my gosh, you were actually here in all this chaos, like Dany pretty much could have just killed you. That could be like another deciding factor. He's like, yeah, enough is enough. Let me go kill her.
Man, there's going to be a lot of death tonight.
Also remember that Jon can get close to Drogon. He's already, that scene last year where first time he's ever met him, he can pet him on the nose. He can get right up to him and maybe just stick him in the eye or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, stick him with the pointy end.
So it's because of that scene. Like I'm like 50-50 where people are saying that even if like Dany wants to even burn Jon, like Drogon's not even gonna do anything. He's just gonna stare at him because of that like scene we got in season 7.
Yeah.
Don't forget though that Tyrion too. Remember in what was that season? Was it all the way back in season 5?
Season 6.
Yeah, he went down and he let the dragons out. Do you he's also Tyrion. He's in, I have to say that he's been so sad this season. And last episode, he did say to Jaime, what is, thousands of innocent children and one not so innocent dwarf. So you could see him trying to sacrifice himself and go, the dragon lands. He walks up to it. He does something or, I don't know what he tried to stab it or jump on top and fly it away.
Well, there could be some...
Oh, what's that?
I think Johnny froze for a second.
Oh, he's frozen.
Yeah, I was frozen. Sorry.
It was a Night King getting revenge. You're back now.
Oh, I'm just going to say there has to be some sort of literature that Bran and Sam has. Bran knows that this dragon's going to have to be taken down. Some people think Bran will warg the dragon. If he needs to stay alive, I don't think him warging the dragon is a good idea. They set up that Bran needs to live for the memory of man. So I think, moreover, he may give this information to Bran because we're going to see a fast forward when the episode starts. We've seen time jumps everywhere. We're going to have someone fight for King's Landing. In a sense, I don't know if we'll have a full-on battle, but there's going to be at least an infiltration of people. And I don't see them putting down their arms, like I said. But what if Dany, I don't know if this would be anticlimactic, but this has happened throughout. Unworthy rulers usually cut themselves on the throne. Could she cut herself on the throne and bleed to death? Could they do that and make it worthwhile?
Well, cut herself on the... Is that a book thing?
Well, they've said it in the show a couple times. People would sit on the throne. King Scab, Ares was called. The Mad King was called King Scab because he cut himself so many times on the throne. So, yeah, they've introduced it enough. But it would be some weird poetic ending. I'm just throwing it out there. It's tinfoil.
If there's something involving the throne, you bring up a good point, Johnny. There's been so much talk for the throne, blah, blah, blah. And so many of us had said, well, nobody should sit on the throne, blah, blah, blah. But if that throne plays into it in some way, and even also because it was in her vision there, right, in the House of the Undying, that would be kind of interesting, actually. And it would be very poetic, right? That the thing she lusted after literally kills her in the end, or she falls on it, or something like that. That would kind of actually be pretty cool.
Ollie comes out of nowhere and pushes her.
Ollie!
Yeah, just like push, or just a poke, and then it's like whoop.
A forced push. Ray comes out from the side. Whoosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible that something can happen with the Iron Throne because where even is it in this pile of rubble? Is it just gonna just be like, just like the thing of like the like it'll be like that moment where it's like like it's like the aura around it when she like walks into the throne room, like it's the only thing that didn't get blown up or have any disaster around it. Like that'll just be a little bit of suspending reality. Like, I mean, it's possible, but I don't know, something with the throne. Like, if they do a time jump, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like it would happen at the end of the episode, though, like the last 15 minutes or so, we'd get like a time jump, but I don't know.
Well, speaking of
time jump for like the epilogue, if we get like an epilogue, like we get that too. Like if George R. R. Martin was gonna cameo, have him be like old Sam, like Song of Ice and Fire done. That would just be epic.
Listen, I got a great email from Howard, who's been a fantastic contributor to the podcast as well as our True Detective podcast. And he wrote out what he thinks the final scene of the series will be. First, there will be a time jump of many years. The camera comes in behind an older, heavy-set gentleman talking to a younger, more middle-aged man. And as the camera pans around, the elder is revealed to be Samwell Tarly, and the younger, his son, Little Sam. Obviously, Sam has been telling his son the story of Game of Thrones. What do you guys think? Do you think that we're going to get some kind of sweet ending like that? I myself think this is Game of Thrones, and we're probably going to get a sad-ass ending of Jon walking off into the wilderness, or people kind of standing around and somebody just says, "What's next?" And then they cut to black. Something like that. But
that's freaking Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They were like, "What's next?" And then it just cut to black. I was
really?
like, no, yeah, for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like he defeated the big bad, and they literally were like, "Oh, what's next?" And then it just cut to black. I was like, "Come on!"
Well, that is kind of also. What's that?
Isn't it like Sopranos too, where it's like something happens and it cuts to black?
Yeah, there's a cut to black, but it's not. Nothing's happening. That is kind of the end to 2001 too, where the Star Child just thinks like, what's going to happen next? And we're just left with that idea. I kind of like that. Does anyone have any final scene or is everybody kind of on the epilogue train? Because I think it's a nice way to end. And there's been some fantastic series that have ended like that. But I just don't know that Game of Thrones is the kind of show to do that. I kind of feel like they're going to leave us in an ambiguous, uncomfortable position.
Well, maybe they do kill Daenerys, but they don't kill Drogon. So amidst creating this new government for Westeros, they just kind of let the dragon do its own thing. So the dragon's still alive. There's still obviously magic in this world. I don't know, just an idea.
No, that says something though, doesn't it, Brett? Does it need to be the end of the magic? Have we seen the last of Bran? I don't know. He could be an epilogue too. It could be like Bran kind of goes off into the wilderness, maybe with Jon, to go back and like live in a tree or something like that. I don't know. Cool. You got any epilogue ideas?
He has to be in the go back into the Weirwood net. Right now, he still has a purpose. I think he's letting them be held back at Winterfell. He let Jon make the decision to tell Sansa and Arya the truth, knowing full well Sansa would tell, because I don't think it mattered in the long run. As far as if anyone's telling the story, I think it's Gilly, and Sam wrote it. And OTDA makes a great point about the victors write the stories, and could Danny going mad be a little bit overwritten or embellished? I would maybe. Sam doesn't strike me as that type of person, but he does have a vendetta against her, the burning of a dick on, and but I don't know if we're gonna get. Oh, sorry. Don't know if we're gonna get that happy of an ending. we might see a shot of that, and I would accept it if they interlaid it, starting through maybe half of the episode. You hear Gilly telling the story, or Sam telling the story, just kind of in between, giving us a little bitty shots of like, wait just a minute, we're hearing this story. And then maybe it ends on this dream of spring, because I think we're going to end with a silver lining. But I don't think it's going to look good for our characters, and we may lose, like you're saying. I think we're going to lose a lot of them. We've lost a lot already. And how many really are left that are going to live? That doesn't seem like a lot. It's hard to call an ending here, but some people have said we see a Ned Stark parallel. I see that as well with Jon, but on the steps of, is it the Red Keep? I don't know. On the steps of the throne room there. So we could see that, but that goes back into the whole Mad King theory as well. But she has Sansa on her mind for sure. That has to play out here.
Yeah. I worry for Sansa, and I'm a Sansa fan. I'm a big Sansa fan. I think that she is I want her and Davos are the people to kind of figure out what's going to happen next. Those are my peoples. I think they're sensible. I think they listen to all opinions, and they've been through it, you know. But when you talk about playing the Ned Stark, I'm really obsessed with that idea of the circle, you know, and that's why I mentioned Ned's brother and father. And so are we going to see, if Dany's the Mad King, does somebody stab her? And then, like you said, Jon walks in, you know, could it be Sansa? I don't know how she'd get that close, you know?
It's Arya has been saying for a while, she's like, I'm going to kill the queen. Obviously, she doesn't kill Cersei, but because there's only a selected amount of characters that have green eyes, it's usually the Lannisters. And then in some light, Dany has blue/greenish eyes. So you could say that if Arya is to kill Dany, or at least attempt to kill Dany, then it would work. It's like, I wanted to kill the queen, I want to kill the queen.
So does she have to die if she kills Dany, though? I feel like almost like Arya has to pay for this. Even though she's saving the realm again, it just seems too strong, like too unbelievable in a sense, especially for the show.
I guess because she'd have to pay for it, or some way like go into kind of not solitude, but like wrap, I guess, the last bit of that Faceless Men storyline up, I guess, a little bit. And I don't think Sansa will be there for when Dany dies, but she will show up, like we're saying, or Sansa could be one of, like, this is going into kind of a theory that I've been working on, which will be on my channel soon, where it's like Sansa will show up with the army and capture Dany, and then basically try Dany for treason and for murder, and then leading up to her execution of some sort. So, and I mean, that's one way to bring her in, and one way to kind of make that ultimate thing of the fans don't like Dany, but I don't know. Like, it's one of those things, because like a lot of people are saying that Sansa's gonna not leave Winterfell. I mean, if she feels like Jon is in danger, like he is, she may go do it, especially because she said the why her in episode 4. So if she feels like Jon's in danger, I mean, she would do anything for like them, because it's always a Stark in Winterfell, and
yeah,
I don't know, like, it's possible. But
I like the idea you had of where did you pick up on Sansa like gathering an army? Because you mentioned that earlier, and with all, I like that because you saw her talking to people, and whenever you see people on the show talking to people, it's just like when we learn in film school, mise en scene, anything that is in the frame is there for a reason. You can never look at a film or TV show and say, oh, that glass is in the background just because they had a glass there. No, every single thing is put there. It might not be a reason that has to do so much with the plot. It might be that the art director liked it and they bought it, but it could have something to do with the plot. As a filmmaker myself, I've done that plenty of times.
Well, we've seen her
in a background, framed people against words. A great example of that is, it's from the book, but at the end of American Psycho, when he's at the door and it says no exit, that's from the book, but that's a beautiful shot. And it says so much about the film. So I like that idea that Sansa's gathering armor. Is there more evidence or anything else you've seen in it?
I mean, there probably is, but it's just
Jose Martel of Dorne.
Jose Martel. Because Sansa's been on this kind of vendetta against Daenerys pretty much since the moment Jon said that he was going to Dragonstone. And that the fact of she talked about this to Littlefinger, I have to keep them here just in case something bad happens. I have to keep the Knights of the Vale and the Northern Army here and in line with Jon, so they don't just disample and then we have nobody to help us fight the long night. And it's that whole thing of like throughout in episodes of season 8, 1 and 2, and going into kind of 3 as well, that it's Sansa against Dany. It's very much Sansa against Dany. There's those jabs and conversations.
Time to learn from.
Yeah.
Littlefinger.
Yes. Like those jabs and conversations, and just because she feels like Jon is rightfully able to rule not only the North but everything else, and the fact that Sansa keeps getting pushed down of not getting what she wants. Like Yara got what she wants. Gendry, Baratheon / Gendry Rivers got from all of that gets what he wants, and she's like, I'm not getting what I want. So the easiest thing for her to do is, because she is Ned and Catelyn's last child that actually is not crazy or has magical powers, that she can write to people that this is what's happening. Like she wrote to Lord Glover and he wasn't coming, but if she can somehow say that he is who he is and write it in a way that they're not going to be like, oh, he's half Targaryen, we're just going to run away. She can write it somewhat in a way to gather these people. Bronja and Royce is important here for a reason. Always been in scenes with her by herself for a reason. So it's and plus she knows certain people, like the people in Riverrun. Her uncle is there, even though he's not obviously probably out of the prison cells, but they're there, and like so on in different areas.
Oh, it just froze for a second there.
Oh, like that she can write to all of these different areas along with Varys to try and bring them together, because especially if people find out what happened with Dany in the last episode, I don't think many people will be like, oh yeah, this is totally perfect for her to sit the throne. I think it's because it could be because Sansa has some sort of jealousy, but that conversation that the two of them had with, this is my war and Jon's war. My war is to win the throne, while Jon's war was to win against the army of the dead. Sansa didn't really like that, I don't think. She didn't like the discrepancy between the different wars. It's like, fighting against the dead should be also your war too. That's a bunch of those things like that makes her kind of bitter. And why not? If you don't get me what she's probably thinking also, if you don't get me what you want, I'll tear you down and install somebody else who's more powerful, even though Jon says, I didn't want it. She is a student of Littlefinger, and she'll do even what is not asked of her, she'll do it anyway. And plus, she learned from Cersei as well. So.
Yeah. Valerie in the chat, and thank you everyone in the chat. I'm terrible at looking at the chat. I apologize. Valerie says, if it's Sansa, she would kill Dany by using other people, manipulating situations like she kind of already has. And that is, if it is Arya, that could be something that they kind of figured out together. You know what I'm saying? Because though I'm still unsure of where we're going to find everyone when we return to this episode. That's what has me a little bit kind of like, I have my predictions and theories, but I'm just kind of unsure of how people would actually, where they all might gather. Are they going to go back to dragons? Like, where are they going to go? You know, and you'd think that they might gather. Maybe we'll see. Is it going to jump, or is it going to be after the battle and like Dany lands and the forces are there because they have to go back, right? Like we saw them amass. Are we just going to jump back? So it's kind of confusing in that sense. I didn't even watch the trailer. I don't know if anybody has watched the trailer.
The trailer was super vague. They just show like, the Raki, like, cheering. We don't even see Dany's face. That's like, we're all asking is like, is she, happy what she did? Is she upset? What? You see Arya looking at Dany like ready to kill her, but it's like, I do love how they're cutting out and making these like teaser trailers to the point they're not telling us everything. They're still just keeping us, in mystery. Same with these titles of the episodes. It's like they hardly telling us these titles until after it airs, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Well,
and I think
the title has to be the last book title, right?
Yeah.
Is
Or like
Song of Spring?
Mm-hmm.
Dream of Spring.
The Dream of Spring.
Okay, so
Or
like season
Song
6
of
was
Ice
like,
and Fire.
Winds of Winter, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Or a Song of Ice and Fire or something like that. Like, because we've had the Dragon and the Wolf and all the Lion and the Wolf and all those other titles. It's gonna be something like that. If the book ending is supposed to be very important, like yeah. But it would be. I know this is jumping back a second, but if it is Sam and Gilly writing the final bit of the story, and the baby that Gilly was pregnant with, it was a son, and his name was Little John, then it'd be like, this is the story of your namesake kind of thing, along with like Little Sam as well. It's like these are the adventures that happened long before, and all those things. Like, and the Gilly as Old Nan, which Johnny has kind of talked about before.
Oh yeah, that's.
Mm-hmm.
But Robin Aaron will sit the Iron Throne. He is Azor Ahai. He will dual wield 2 flaming swords and defeat Dany and Drogon at the same time. He's been working on his fighting skills for at least 4 years now, so he should be awesome.
Yeah,
that's all he's been doing. It's been like a Rocky montage in the Vale.
It's that's Cobra Kai season 3 is Robin Aaron. Ralph Macchio trains him, and it's amazing. Actually, I love Cobra Kai. Everybody should watch it if you're a fan.
I'll try. But honestly, at this point, Sansa better like go run to the area at this point, because if she knows she's a target, that would be like a good place to shack up and like wait. If she's like getting an army, let them like head down there or something. Like I guess it's kind of helpful if she's fortified up there against a dragon, fire-breathing dragon. I don't know. I think it is. Could be wrong.
The Vale didn't which I can never remember right now, but someone tried to swoon. Was it Rhaenys or no, it was Visenya that went to the Vale with Aegon.
And Rhaenyra Aaron. It was actually Rhaenyra Aaron that Visenya took flying around the Vale 3 times, and the king. There was no more King of the Vale anymore after that, and I can't remember the exact thing. They were called, oh goodness, the Kings of the Vale they have a different name, but yeah, that's a good point. So
that would make a great sequel where Lil Jon, and then he is like against Robin Hood. Oh man, I'm telling you, they're gonna make a sequel, people. Mark my words. We already talked about the Lord of the Rings. That is, Amazon is going to make like 5 series out of that. They're going to have like 5 series of Game of Thrones, and I guarantee there will be a sequel. And I'm saying that Gilly, Sam, and Tormund will be the characters, and maybe they'll get like a Davos or like one old person, just to have a white hair in there, and that will be the sequel. This is wow. I can't believe that we're coming down to the end here. I like this idea of Sansa, and now I'm kind of formulating an idea in my mind that it might be a bigger show of force than we might think. I think fandom, you said that of like gathering all the forces, and I think that we might see something like that where Dany is just like has a big decision where she has to like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep on killing everybody? Like, is this really the road that I'm on? And then maybe we loop in the Mackenzie part and she kind of realizes she's seen the dead kids. She realizes, and we get like a big break here, you know, where she's got this decision, and what she does, I don't know, but I would be satisfied with that. You know, we've been going a while. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to bring up or talk about, or any ideas, anything like that? Mackenzie, I'll let you go. You want to go first?
I mean, we can talk about. We have 80 minutes left, so this is not really like in show base, but we can kind of talk about like what the show. I know we kind of talked about this a bit pre-stream, but it's like what the show, like the lasting impressions of the show will obviously conflict between different people, but it's like what really you think that as of right now, what will have been something that the show is remembered by, like a favorite moment of the show or a favorite season or something like that, that like is such a thing that stands out to you the most, kind of thing.
I don't know. I'll go first. And for me, I think it's going to be just the craziest moments. Ned, Jaime's hand, just the way that this show has, even just this last episode with Dany, has not held back from taking people all the way into the black hat and just, you know, indulging in their kind of worst qualities. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing because Game of Thrones is not a happy show, and we love these characters and we have formed an attachment to each other and their journeys, but we must admit that the world in which this show exists and what we've seen characters do and do to each other is mostly traumatic and sad. You know, there's not too many like uplifting moments where the violins play. And even when they are, they're like Dany freeing slaves after killing a bunch of people, and they're slaves. And this situation is not one we'd want to be in anyway. Right. So I think that this show will have a lasting memory of being hard. And I think that that's kind of what this episode will bring us. It's going to be those hard moments, Red Wedding, things like that people are really going to take from Game of Thrones. And it's going to have I think there'll always be a darkness associated with Game of Thrones.
That's why we love it, right?
Yeah, the things.
Kind of the thing.
Like episode 3, we're like, this person's gonna die, that person's gonna die, and then like when hardly anyone died, we're like, where's the death? Ain't this Game of Thrones?
It subverted our expectations by letting people live. I would say my favorite moments is definitely everything with the Hound and Arya, especially seasons 3 and 4. Oh my gosh, just yeah, that's it. And you know, after Germ stopped, you know, getting with the show, it admittedly became not as good, but I still enjoy it, right? It's hard to say that they did the best they could because they admittedly have rushed it here at the ending, which I'm not happy about, but I don't think it's going to do anything for me to complain. I still think in general the message is pretty poetic and Shakespearean, honestly, but it's fairly base, but that's what we've seen from 5, 6, and 7. None of those seasons were anything compared to the first 4, in my opinion. You can definitely disagree with me, but yeah, I'm getting off topic here. But as far as moments, you know, everything you said, Axel, and I'm sure everything anyone says, there's so many great moments from the show that it's astonishing when I actually think of it. Not many shows have this many great moments.
True that. They've went for it. What do you think, Brett? Any favorite moments or anything else you want to talk about?
I'll disagree with Johnny a little bit, just because season 6 for me might be my favorite season, and the back-to-back Battle of the Bastards episode followed by the Winds of Winter, blowing up of the Sept, calling Jon King of the North episode. Those two, it's probably, that's kind of what my mind goes to whenever I think about the series right now. But I am a TV watcher.
Yeah, I agree.
Same in that.
I have to say, Johnny, I do empathize with those that feel it's unduly rushed, but I feel that it was kind of a change of style that did take some getting used to. But when I rewatched, and I want to bring this up because we talked a lot about this with a lot of other finales through the years, that Game of Thrones is going to live on as a complete thing starting tomorrow, right? It is no longer a week-to-week experience that we can blog, vlog, podcast, whatever about. It is a complete set that you go to HBO Go and hit play. And people will see it differently. And I think that a lot of people will not even notice that. They will see it as the story ramped up, there were less characters, and it got to its conclusion. Things do get faster when they go to the end, right? When an accident happens, it's like, whoo, it's like in a movie, you get the whole getting the keys, ride in the car, blah, 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 but then the accident happens. And that's what we're getting here. And I think it will be seen differently. And I think the kind of eyes that we see it with, we will also have to change as content creators, whatevers, and understand that the people we're talking to in 5 years are people who may have one Sunday said, you know what, maybe I should watch Game of Thrones. It's only, it's not like old TV shows where it's 24 episodes a season. And they go a couple weeks and they watch the whole series. And then they're writing you an email or jumping on a live stream or something. So it is interesting to take that into account. Fandom, did you talk yet about your favorite moment or anything else?
I'll be agreeing with Brad here. And also we had like 3 questions from the live chat. So whenever you want to transition to that, we could. But like favorite moment or simply just the episode is like Winds of Winter, You have, Cersei, one of my favorite Cersei moments in the entire series, her blowing up the set, getting revenge, like that opening sequence alone, that theme that we always hear. We just go back and think of that moment where she blows up the set, to Arya getting like her revenge, like Winter came to freaking House Frey thing and she killed Walter Frey. That was excellent there. To Jon being named like King of the North, it was just excellent moments from there. It was excellent. And finally, how many seasons, how many years we waited for? Like 6 years, and finally Dany is like setting sail to Westeros. So like finally, let's see how it all goes down like within the next season. That was probably my favorite episode by far.
Those are all great moments. I feel like I have to go back because I went so dark and now I depressed everyone. But I like Arya and the Hound is probably something, if somebody asks, what do you want to see a series of? I would see that. I'd be fine if they announce tomorrow that they sign them for a 3-episode miniseries where it's just them riding on horses and stuff that we didn't see and they just talk. I would be totally cool with that. So many one-liners from Tyrion, from Bronn, just quick ones. Reaction shots of Davos. It sounds silly, but I mean, that guy, Ian Cunningham, right? That's his name, right? He is a Liam Cunningham. What an actor. I just love, there are beautiful things, even though it has been dark. There have been many beautiful moments that have allowed us to connect with characters. Brienne too, she's always kind of been my favorite. I just think that she's awesome. She's prideful, but she also has a bit of humility and knows how people see her. So I've always kind of had a little bit of a thing for Brienne. Hey, you mentioned fandom that we have some chat things, some chat questions.
Yes. The first one, we had OTDA. Who's the last person to die tonight? For me, I would say Dany. Probably like the last person to die.
I would have to say that's a hard one. The last person. I think that might be what the epilogue is. Let me go out on a limb. That kind of gets my mind working here. And maybe it's Sam. And maybe this is his deathbed and he's kind of telling the end of the story or sharing it, or, we get a kind of a moment like that. Maybe we get like a kind of like a sad goodbye of an older character with the knowledge, though, that they've lived a good life afterwards. That might be kind of something bittersweet and kind of fits the Game of Thrones mold, but kind of makes everybody happy. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe he could get pickled in a cask of wine, like Maester Aemon in the books. And that's how he gets to go out all nice. I think we may... It's hard to know what's going to happen with Sam here. I don't think he's going to come to King's Landing, but I do like that he has this deathbed experience. That'd be pretty interesting. We know that Winterfell's done for, King's Landing's done for. This is already going to be tough for them. Last person dying. Maybe Arya. I think we could see that in a very obscure way that they even maybe leave us wondering whether she's dead or alive. That's one of the few characters I see that they could do that with, and that's just a tinfoil thought.
Interesting. Mackenzie?
I know probably a lot of people are like, yeah, it's predictable, but maybe Jon. We have Jon die because of, what if killing Dany or doing something in the service of Dany / his whole last bit of the show was his purpose from the Lord of Light? Because they kind of mentioned that in episode 3 with Mel's purpose was to basically light the trench and save people. Beric's purpose was to save Arya. So Jon's purpose could be just to have be part of the army and to maybe kill Dany or someone else who's kind of important and just die off that way. But it'd be kind of cheap now that I think about it, but it fits kind of within the confines of the story.
Yeah. All right, Brett and Peter.
Well, it sounds cheap on paper, but I think they could pull it off, because I was going to say the same thing. I think Jon may die at the end of the episode. Ever since he died the first time, he's come back a lesser version of himself, according to the Lord of Light and according to Beric. I feel like, when he was entering the Battle of the Bastards, it's almost, even though he gave it his all, he didn't really care if he lived or he died. So I feel like he doesn't care if he dies. So I think maybe he'll do one last thing to fulfill whatever destiny he was brought back for. And then after that may be it for Jon.
Yeah, that would be fitting. That would be fitting. All right, we got another question from the chat.
Yes, this one is from, let me pull up my notes here. Larry Von Wick. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. You could always crucify me in the live chat if I mispronounced it. Do you think there will be a throne in the end? Should there even be one?
What do you think, Johnny? I know I've heard you talk about this before.
Well, there's this expectation that it will be destroyed, and it possibly will be. We might get this cheesy moment. Of course, Dany's not breaking the will here, and I don't see her burning it. She never was going to burn the Iron Throne. She's been dreaming of sitting on it for an eternity, and that's just what she'll do if Jon does become king. And if they're going to do it, they've foreshadowed this way too much. They've punched you in the face with it way too many times. But if they do this, he will be the one that that could tear the throne apart. That just really depends. I see the scenario of Jon relinquishing control to Sansa and retiring after all this shit. He don't want to see this anymore. He don't want to have to deal with this. And if he can't give it 100%, I know he doesn't want to sit on the throne. If he thinks there's someone better, he'll put him there. And we've had this whole thing with Sansa. She's smarter than she lets on. She's really smart. She's this. She's that. She's learned the Game of Thrones. She's been in Queen training camp. As much as you want to love her or hate her, set up for her to rule something in the end. And that doesn't even mean, the capital of Westeros could move to Winterfell. Could do something like that. But I don't know if they'll be like, oh, this is the official capital. But maybe if Sansa does become the queen or whatever, she does it from Winterfell. That could be something that's pretty bittersweet. We still have something to hold on to, but everything's still destroyed, right? Jon retiring to the cave. Jon St. Baptiste been having this theory for a while that Jon would just retire to the cave in the books where he was with Ygritte. And we got this thing with Tormund. You're a true northerner. You're not a Kneeler. And, he's a wildling at heart if you look at Jon. He just wants to be free. He's a hippie. So let him be free, man.
Rome, Johnny Rome. Fandom, what do you think?
I don't want Jon on the throne, just like Jon St. Baptiste's theory. I just want him to retire. Let him go somewhere where it's, warm. Don't have to worry about anything anymore. It's just been a while, especially if he kills Dany. It's like, truly retire. Shack up a Ghost. That should be a good spinoff. Just, Jon and Ghost, out and, beyond the wall. That would be excellent. But if anything, I've always wanted, a group of, leaders, an actual small council, governing all of Westeros. That's what I kind of want. Not just one singular person. So hopefully just get rid of the one ruler type thing and truly break the wheel and just start over.
Yeah. I got to jump on it and say nobody should rule. There should be no Iron Throne. They should burn that thing. They should get a council together, maybe have a prime minister or something. I mean, people, whatever. It just seems like human beings like to have a figurehead, whatever it is. So I'd put Sansa or Davos at the head there if they survive. Those are my peoples. But I'm against an Iron Throne. And I think it's fitting. The Targaryens united Westeros, right? King's Landing is now burned. That was created by Aegon the Conqueror. If I'm right about that, I believe I am. From Fire and Blood, I did read that. So it's fitting that it ends. That's what this story is, right? That's why it's the main story. Because it's the story that we see here. So it's got to have an end like that. Mackenzie, what do you think?
I feel like we will have somebody sit, if you want to call it, on the Iron Throne, or have at least some sort of power. But over time, it will turn into a governmental system like we would know today. Because they kind of set that example, although this is kind of slightly different topics. They did, Tyrion did give the wise master 7 years to end slavery, so it's not going to take 80 minutes to change an entire monarchy. If we do get an epilogue, we could see how the throne was dismantled and each kingdom got their own sort of rulership, so to speak. It wouldn't be let's just burn down the Iron Throne and see what happens. It'll probably could be something that's happened in the books, where there is a council that happens after maybe Dany has died. Jon's just I don't really want it. And then there's a back and forth of, you don't want it, but we want it. And then they make the ultimate decision of, okay, you don't want it. And then there's that whole separation kind of thing. It won't be boom, Danny's dead now, let's just give everybody what they want. It'll be an adjustment period of well, you're still rightfully the king unless you want to give it to somebody else. And then it'll trickle down kind of from there. It's not just going to be an instantaneous thing. If it was just for somebody to sit on it, Vegas says that Bran's the one to sit on it. Like Vegas is predicting that Bran's supposed to sit on, like it's like 500 or something.
Bran?
Like, yeah, Vegas wants Bran to sit on there.
I don't even see this. The guy is like,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like he even want to do that. He'd be like,
yeah, I don't know. It's Vegas betting for you, but yeah, that's apparently what they like. That's the last time I checked. So I don't think it's gonna happen. But
is everyone like drunk when they're doing the betting option and like this McGrath?
Here,
I don't know. Here, I can try to
cheers,
find it.
Vegas. No, I'll turn it around, so no product placement. Cheers. You are drunk, because I don't see Bran would just be, I mean, like he just said in the last episode, I think the last thing Bran said is, I don't have any wants. Oh, so I don't see him. I wouldn't want him. I think I said in another show, if Bran was sitting on the Iron Throne, there'd be a lot of babies cut in half. Like he just seems like so logical that there's no emotion, there's no thought for. I don't know why you would want that. It's like asking for robot rule. Maybe it is going to become Westworld. Oh my God, we're back to the beginning. All right, Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be an Iron Throne at the end of this. I like Sansa a lot, but and she would make a good ruler of the North. I don't think she wants to rule the entire continent. I think she would be happy just ruling the North. But that could be kind of a way for all the 7 or 8 kingdoms to kind of just rule on their own, but work together. So I could see something like that. This reminds me of that conversation that Tyrion and Daenerys had back in season 7 about what is the succession plan? And she tells him, I'll worry about that plan after I take the throne. Well, now that she's taken the throne, I think we should have Tyrion walk in and say, okay, Daenerys, how about that succession plan?
That's a good point though, Brett, right? Like Dany is kind of a dead end as a queen, right? Like she can't, I mean, in this world, she can't have a child. Who is she going to pass it on to? And she's the only one would, I mean, some people have been saying, and this is a far out one, that the reason she gave Gendry, she legitimized Gendry. Now he's somehow third in line to the throne, and Gendry could end up as the king, which would put us exactly back where we started. Because when we started, his dad was the king, so that would be kind of crazy. But yeah, Brett, I don't know. I'm not a fan of anybody sitting on the throne. Now, listen, I'd love to answer some more questions from the chat and all, but I do have to get going and I have to wrap this up. So I want to give everyone a chance to tell everyone how they can find more stuff that you created or made or talked about and what you're doing next or what you're doing for this finale following it. So Mackenzie, you're up.
Well, you can find me here on YouTube under my name, it should be. But you can, on Wednesday night, we'll be covering this episode. And previously, I've covered every single episode of Game of Thrones. Johnny has been on, and as well as Fandom Distinct have been on, and a whole bunch of other people have been on. And we'll be discussing that. I'm always on Johnny's channel. I should be making videos about the end / things moving forward. I have to pick a new show for my channel to kind of delve into, but that'll come later. And yeah, thank you so much, Axel, for having me on. It was a pleasure, and to talk about it with some awesome people like we had today. And I can't wait for tonight. It's so close now.
I know. Well, thank you for coming on with short notice. It has been my pleasure and all of our pleasures to have you here. Johnny.
What's up, man? Yeah, catch me on Johnny Be Crazy, all the same social media, Mondays and Fridays, do a Nooners of Thrones. Next Friday, I will be off, but we'll be going back into Fire and Blood on that channel, back into the literature, super in-depth, and then we'll also be covering The Expanse, the show, and the books. which are very, very similar. And we got Stranger Things coming up. We got Vikings coming up the last season, for what that's worth. Another show that's kind of let us down, but fantastic musical score. And we'll see if they can bring it back. But the final season of that. And we'll have Watchmen coming up. And then we got a few other things that I'm not thinking of at the time. But I cover a few different shows. I've been super into GOT, and, Westworld coming back in 2020 maybe, so I'm looking forward to that. That's how I got into this. But thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure to be on with Brett, Sasa, and Phantom Descent, my forehead brother. We just like to power solar systems with our foreheads. That's how we do it.
Well, we appreciate that clean energy. That's the future. Brett, how can we find you?
Well, I'm a huge Westworld nerd in addition to a Game of Thrones nerd. So you'll probably be able to find me with Axel on the Westworld Theory Cast next year. Yeah. And also a few podcasts from the end of season 2. As far as Game of Thrones, though, I'm mainly just a fan, and I'm honored and fortunate to be on with you guys. And you can tweet me at Brett Ewell on Twitter.
Awesome. Yes, Brett, we will be doing the Westworld Theory Cast. That's going to be awesome. We had so much fun talking with Justin, AU, In Deep Geek, and I hope you all too, when Westworld comes up, we'll all be doing this again. Fandom, how can we find you?
For starters, thank you for having me on, Axel. I've been trying to get you within some type of stream, be involved with you ever since I saw you and Justin Thomas in some stream. And do forgive me if you hear dogs barking. It's it's always that way in this time of day. The dogs begin to bark, but when the moment Game of Thrones is on, they must be quiet because their owner must be watching Game of Thrones. But yeah, if you want to find me, it's on Fandom D saying YouTube channel. I pretty much do reaction videos. It's kind of like live commentary of whatever show I'm pretty much watching at that moment, whether it be like Game of Thrones, Supernatural, which is ending this next year, which is just tragic, to Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, Legion, which hopefully I get to talk with. I'm trying to be crazy, whenever that season begins. I think it begins in June. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, and also I cannot wait for Westworld. We're talking with pretty much everyone here, because I think everyone here pretty much watches damn Westworld. 2020. Hopefully they don't delay it or anything, because we need freaking Westworld. I need to know about that freaking the cliffhanger we got with the Man in Black. It's what's up with that? I gotta know.
Who are the pearls, man? Who are the 5 pearls, bro?
Oh man,
it's I can't remember the character's name at this point. I know what it had to be Bernard, obviously. But everyone else I can't remember. Probably got one of Ford and everyone else there. But before I go again, one last Funko, and that's Sansa Stark right there. Hopefully we get another one if she ends up ruling everything. Might get a Sansa on the Iron Throne. That would be crazy.
That'd be nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody coming on, and check everybody's YouTube channels out and what they're doing. We're going to be back covering tonight. Me and Heath solo. We're going to do the initial reaction. We're going to do the deep dive. Tim will be back tomorrow doing the round table. And if any of y'all want to join in, shoot us an email, anyone out there in the chat. And thank you, everyone in the chat. I know I'm pretty terrible at reading things, so Fandom, thank you for bringing to my attention some questions that were there. I do appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to join us talking about Game of Thrones. You can subscribe to us at Podcast Winterfell. Go to podcastwinterfell.com. I do another show called Daily DVR, and me and Jenny, I think was in the chat, are going to be covering Big Little Lies. That's an awesomely fun show. It should be a little departure from Game of Thrones on that one, but you never know. It is HBO. And we'll be back doing that. Among other things, we're going to be doing The Watchmen. Aaron, my original podcast partner from Lost Mythos, is going to come back and cover The Watchmen too. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. So thank you, everyone. That's all the ads we have for you. Oh, thanks. Go to cufflinks.com. They're the best. Cufflinks.com. Now, I want to try to play something. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, But my wife's friend, if I can't play it now, I'm going to play it on the podcast tonight. They took all the names of the Democratic candidates and made them into the Game of Thrones song. And it's really funny. And I'm going to see if I can play it here, if it'll come through my computer. Let's see. What did I call the file? But if I can't get it to go tonight, today, I'll get it to go tonight. Okay, let's see. Audio message. That's what it's called. Okay, let's see if this plays. Because they did a pretty fun job of doing this. And as I'm going out, we're going to let my old ass computer load it up. And I'm just going to keep on talking, baby. We're live, baby, on the YouTube. It's still circling around. I got that little circle going. Everybody's looking at me, waiting for it to happen. Is it
America happen? Online working?
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Let's see if this works. Let's see if you can even hear it.
Warren Sanders, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake. Harris Klobuchar, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake. Biden got too close to my hair. Hickenlooper, 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 Hickenlooper. Biden, is he still standing there? Hickenlooper, 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 Hickenlooper. Beto, Bill de Blasio, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake, Buddha shake shake. Booker, and don't forget Castro, Buddha shake shake, 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 Buddha shake shake.
Oh my God. That was utterly brilliant. I want to thank let's see, who am I supposed to thank? Justin and Rachel for bringing that to us. That was amazing. I loved it very much. I hope everyone was everyone able to hear it? Yes? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to play it on the podcast again tonight, but I'll just leave you with that little comedy. Everyone enjoy the show this evening. If you love the show, stay away from Twitter. People are going to be angry. Let them be angry. In a couple weeks, they'll be angry about something else. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to have fun and just enjoy the time, the last time we have with these characters until the sequel happens. So thank you, everyone. Good night. Peace out.